The Luna ceremony was where dreams come true for some and ended for others. And as Vera stood in the shadows behind her stepsister, she knew exactly which fate was hers. She had been told to stand there, to witness, to watch the life she should have had slip through her fingers like water through cracked stone. Her stepsister Melisande stood radiant in white silk at the altar, dark hair cascading down her back like a river of ink. Beautiful. Perfect. Everything Vera could never be. And why would the Alpha King choose differently? Vera was the marked one, the girl whose skin bloomed with silver patterns that her stepmother called a disease, a contamination. Something so shameful it had to be hidden beneath long sleeves and high collars even in summer. Stand behind the pillar, her stepmother Serena had hissed that morning. If the king sees those marks, he'll have you burned for witchcraft. So Vera hid, as she had for 15 years, as she would until she died. The great hall of Valdres overflowed with wolves from every territory in Asterholm. They had come to witness history. The Alpha King, Kavan of the Valkoran bloodline, was finally taking a mate after 7 years of refusing every princess who threw herself at his feet, and he had chosen Melisande. Vera should have felt bitter, but mostly she felt tired. Tired of hoping, tired of hiding, tired of being the shameful secret her family kept locked away. At 19, she had already accepted that her life would amount to nothing. Her mother had died when she was 3. Her father had remarried Serena 6 months later, bringing Melisande into their household. Then her father had died too, leaving 4-year-old Vera entirely at her stepmother's mercy. Mercy that had never come. Just get through the ceremony, she told herself, then you can disappear. She didn't know that disappearing was the one thing the Alpha King would never allow. The hall smelled of winter roses and burning cedar. Vera pressed her back against the cold stone pillar, making herself invisible. From her hidden position, she could see everything. The noble families in their finest silks. The raised dais where Melisande waited beside the high priestess, and her stepmother Serena, positioned at the front with tears of false joy glistening in her eyes. He's arriving, someone whispered. The great doors swung open. Vera felt him before she saw him. A wave of alpha dominance rolled through the space, pressing against her chest like a physical weight. This wasn't ordinary power. This was something ancient, born from bloodlines so pure they were more myth than reality. Then he stepped inside. Alpha King Kavan was tall, taller than any wolf she'd ever seen, with shoulders broad enough to block out the torchlight behind him. His hair was the color of a moonless night, and his eyes were the palest blue she'd ever encountered. Almost silver, almost colorless, and completely, utterly cold. He walked through the parted crowd like a blade through silk, acknowledging no one. His face revealed nothing, not anticipation for his bride, not pleasure at the ceremony. Nothing at all. He looked like a man walking toward his execution rather than his mating. Melisande smiled radiantly as he approached. She extended her hand with practiced grace. The Alpha King didn't take it. He stopped 3 steps away, his cold gaze cataloging her face, her gown, her carefully arranged hair. Finding her? Adequate. Nothing more. Alpha King Kavan, the high priestess began. You have come to claim this woman as your Luna. Is this your will? Silence stretched. Every wolf held their breath. And then the Alpha King spoke. No. The word fell like a hammer blow. Melisandre's smile froze. Serena went white. The crowd erupted in shocked whispers. Your Majesty, the high priestess stammered. The contracts were signed. I reject this Luna, Kavan said, his voice cutting through the chaos. Cold, final, absolute. Melisande stumbled backward. My king, whatever I've done to displease you, you've done nothing. His tone held no cruelty, just emptiness. But I will not bind myself to a lie. Serena pushed forward. Your Majesty, my daughter is the finest choice in all of Asterholm. I did not come here for her. Silence crashed over the hall. Kavan turned slowly, his silver-blue gaze sweeping across the crowd, searching. Vera pressed herself harder against the pillar. He couldn't possibly be looking for her. No one ever looked for her. But his gaze kept moving until it stopped. On the pillar. On her. Their eyes met, and something cracked open inside Vera's chest. A jolt of recognition that made no sense. Her, the Alpha King said. I came for her. 2 royal guards moved before anyone could protest, guiding Vera out from behind the pillar toward the dais. She wanted to run. Every instinct screamed that she was being exposed. But something stronger than fear kept her moving. She stopped at the base of the dais, head bowed. Look at me, Kavan commanded. Vera raised her head, met his gaze. Up close, he was overwhelming. Beautiful in the way a winter storm was beautiful. Dangerous and cold and utterly without mercy. But there was something else buried deep beneath that ice. Pain. Ancient, bottomless pain. Your Majesty, she whispered. I don't understand. No, he agreed. You don't. He descended the steps and stopped close enough that she could feel the cold emanating from his body. Not normal coolness. Something deeper. Something wrong. I reject the Luna you have offered me, he announced. In her place, I claim this woman. You can't, Serena screamed. She's cursed. Yan, if you saw what she hides beneath those sleeves. I don't care what she hides. Kavan's voice dropped to deadly quiet. This is my choice. This is my Luna. Any who challenge this decision challenges me. Silence. Kavan turned back to Vera. For just a moment, something flickered in those frozen eyes. Something almost like desperation. Do you accept? Every part of her wanted to refuse. He didn't know what she was. When he found out, he would cast her aside like everyone else had. But then she looked at Serena's face, the hatred burning there, the promise of retribution, and she understood that this cold king was offering her something no one else ever had. An escape. Yes, Vera breathed. I accept. The hall erupted. The carriage that carried Vera away from the ceremony was more luxurious than anything she'd ever touched. Velvet seats, windows framed in silver. The scent of cedar and something darker that must be the king's own scent. She sat rigidly, waiting for someone to tell her this was all a terrible joke. But the carriage simply rolled toward the palace, and no one came. 3 hours later, a guard escorted her to the king's study. Kavan stood at the window, silhouetted against fading light. When he turned, she was struck again by the cold radiating from him like winter given form. Your Majesty. She dropped into a curtsy. Rise. She straightened, keeping her eyes low. I'll be direct, he said. I did not choose you out of affection. I chose you because I needed someone invisible. Someone who would accept my terms without argument. Each word struck like a small blow, but Vera absorbed them silently. What terms? Kavan moved toward his desk. You will be my Luna in name only. We will live separate lives, separate chambers, separate existences. She waited. You will provide me with an heir. That is the only duty I require beyond public appearances. Once an heir is secured, our physical relationship will end. And what will I receive? Something almost like respect flickered in his eyes. Safety, wealth, power. No one will dare touch you once you bear my mark. And whatever you're hiding beneath those sleeves will remain your own secret. I will never ask. I will never look. Vera's heart stuttered. You know I'm hiding something? The way you move, the way you keep yourself covered. Your stepmother's terror when I chose you. He tilted his head. But I don't care what it is. Why? Because I have my own secrets, my own conditions I have no desire to explain. His voice hardened. If I ignore yours, you ignore mine. No questions, no curiosity. An impossible bargain, a marriage built on mutual blindness. It should have horrified her. Instead, something loosened in her chest. You're offering me freedom, she said slowly. I'm offering you a cage with larger bars. Don't mistake it for freedom. Any cage you offer is larger than the one I'm escaping. He went still. Your stepmother, he said quietly. I won't speak of it. Just as you won't speak of yours. For a long moment they simply looked at each other. Two broken creatures recognizing something familiar in each other's damage. Then Kavan nodded. The ceremony will be in 3 days. Stay in your chambers until then. He moved toward the door. Your Majesty, Vera called. Why me? Out of everyone, why me? Silence stretched. When he finally spoke, his voice was barely audible. Because when I looked at you, I felt nothing. The door closed behind him. Vera stood alone, trying to understand why those words felt less like an insult and more like the saddest confession she'd ever heard. 2 days later, her stepsister found her. Melisande swept into Vera's chambers, her beautiful face twisted with fury. You did this, she spat. I did nothing. The king made his choice. Do you really think a king would choose you over me? And yet here I am. Melisandre's eyes narrowed. Mother thinks you bewitched him. Used whatever foul magic created those marks. There is no magic. Then explain how you stole my mate. He was never your mate. He was an arrangement. Vera moved toward the door. If you want to blame someone, blame the king. Melisandre grabbed her sleeve. The fabric pulled, exposing Vera's forearm. The silver marks swirling across her skin like frozen rivers. Melisandre's face went pale. They've spread. Mother said they were only on your shoulders. Vera yanked her sleeve down. Leave. Now. He doesn't know, does he? A cruel smile crept across Melisandre's face. When he finds out what kind of monster he's chosen. She stepped closer. When he discovers what you truly are, he won't just reject you. He'll execute you himself. She swept out, leaving Vera alone with her racing heart. The marks seemed to pulse beneath her sleeves, responding to her fear. He promised he wouldn't look, she whispered. But promises were fragile things. The morning of the formal presentation dawned cold and gray. Vera had barely slept. But when her handmaidens arrived, she forced herself to stand tall. Whatever came, she would face it with dignity. The gown they dressed her in was silver, a cruel joke. But she couldn't refuse without explaining why. The presentation took place in the throne room before hundreds of nobles. Vera walked the endless length of the room, feeling every eye upon her. At the far end, on a dais of black stone, sat Kavan. Beside him, an empty throne. Her throne. She mounted the steps and sat as gracefully as she could manage. The high priestess stepped forward. We gather to formally present the Luna chosen by Alpha King Kavan. Let any who wish to speak against this union do so now. Silence. Then Serena's voice rang out. I wish to speak. Vera's stomach dropped as her stepmother glided forward. Your Majesty, I must warn you about this woman. She is cursed. Her skin bears marks of an ancient disease that spreads through touch. I'm aware of her marks. The declaration silenced the hall. Serena faltered. You know? Her mother was Honora of the Sylvanvane pack, one of the most respected healers of her generation. Kavan's tone sharpened. A woman who died under suspicious circumstances. Circumstances you were conveniently present for, Lady Serena. The color drained from Serena's face. I don't know what you're implying. I'm stating facts. Kavan rose and his presence seemed to fill the hall. You came to discredit my Luna. Instead, you've revealed yourself as someone willing to lie before the entire kingdom. He descended the steps slowly. The marks you call a curse are none of your concern. And if you ever approach her again with threats or slander, you will learn exactly why the Valkoran bloodline has ruled Asterholm for 1,000 years. Serena stood frozen, trembling. Leave. Take your daughter with you. I don't wish to see either of you in my court again. For a terrible moment, Vera thought her stepmother might argue. But even Karena had limits. She fled, Melisande hurrying after her. Kavan returned to his throne without glancing at Vera. But as he sat, his hand brushed against hers. The presentation continues. Any other objections? Silence. Then I present your Luna. Let none question her place. Later, at the door to her chambers, Vera touched her hand where his cold grip still lingered. He could have let Serena expose her. He could have demanded to see the marks himself. Instead, he'd protected her. She didn't understand why. But for the first time in 15 years, she felt something she'd forbidden herself to feel. Hope. The wedding ceremony passed in a blur of incense and ancient words. When it came time for the claiming, tradition demanded a bite, a mark on her neck that would bind them irrevocably, but that would require exposing her skin. Kavan leaned closer, and Vera tensed. Instead, his cold lips brushed her forehead. I claim you as mine, he murmured. My Luna, my queen. Relief flooded through her. I claim you as mine, my alpha, my king. The crowd murmured at the unconventional claiming, but no one dared object. That night, Vera sat on the edge of the bed in the Luna's chambers, trying to control her breathing. 3 soft knocks sounded at the door. Come in. Kavan entered, and already reaching into his pocket. He withdrew a strip of dark fabric. A blindfold, he said quietly. If you're worried about me seeing something you wish to keep hidden. The thoughtfulness made her throat tight. You would blind yourself on our wedding night? I told you I would never look. I meant it. She took the blindfold with trembling fingers. Turn around. He obeyed without hesitation. She rose on unsteady legs and secured it over his eyes, her fingers lingering against his skin. There, she whispered. Kavan turned toward her, sightless now. His hands rose slowly, settling gently on her shoulders. His touch was cold. So cold it should have been uncomfortable. But somehow it felt like relief, like cool water on a fever. Tell me if you want me to stop, he said. At any point. And you would? Yes. I need an heir, Vera. But not at the cost of your willingness. She believed him. I don't want you to stop. His hand slid to her waist. The cold seeped through her silk nightgown. You're so warm, he murmured, wonder in his voice. I didn't expect to feel anything. I haven't felt anything in so long. Before she could respond, his mouth found hers. The kiss was tentative at first. His lips were cold but soft. Vera's hands found his chest, feeling his heart beating faster than his controlled demeanor suggested. Something built between them, a warmth that had nothing to do with temperature. When they finally parted, both were breathing hard. Vera. Her name sounded precious on his lips. I need you to know something. What? I cannot love you. The words were heavy with grief. Whatever this becomes, I'm not capable of love. Please don't hope for it. She should have been hurt, but all she felt was that same deep sadness she'd sensed in him from the beginning. Then I won't hope, she said quietly. But I won't close myself off from whatever this is either. He pulled her closer, and she let herself fall into the darkness with him. She woke alone. The space beside her was empty, but on the pillow where his head had rested lay a single winter rose, white petals edged with frost blue. The rose was not part of any arrangement. She pressed it to her lips, feeling something dangerous bloom in her chest. Don't hope, she reminded herself. But as she breathed in the flower's delicate scent, she wondered if the Alpha King knew himself as well as he thought he did. 3 nights passed before he returned. Vera had almost convinced herself that first night was an aberration. Then, on the 4th evening, 3 soft knocks sounded at her door. Come in. Kavan entered, already reaching for the blindfold. If this is unwelcome. It isn't. The words came out too quickly. I mean, if you wish to, I wish to. Something in his voice made her stomach flutter. I've thought of little else for 3 days. The admission hung between them, more intimate than any touch. After that, he came every night. Sometimes he arrived after dinner, staying for hours. Other times he appeared past midnight, as if he'd fought the urge and lost. They didn't always make love. Sometimes they simply lay together in darkness, her warmth bleeding into his cold, talking about nothing and everything. She learned he hated formal banquets but loved the hunt, and that he'd wanted to be a scholar before his father's death forced the crown onto him. He learned she could read ancient Astroholmian, that she'd dreamed of seeing the southern seas, that a healer had once whispered her marks weren't a curse but something far older. What did he mean? Kavan asked one night. Something older? He wouldn't say. Sirena had him sent away before I could ask more. Perhaps we can find him, this healer. The casual offer made her heart clench. You would do that? You're my Luna. Your questions are my questions now. No one had ever treated her mysteries as worthy of solving. So instead of speaking, she turned in his arms and kissed him. The nights blurred together. Vera found herself living for those 3 soft knocks. Her days became mere waiting periods until darkness fell and he returned. She was falling. Every laugh, every confession, every tender touch pushed her further toward an edge she couldn't see. One morning she woke to find him still there. The blindfold was askew, but he kept his eyes firmly closed even as dawnlight spilled across the bed. His arm was wrapped around her waist, his body pressed against her back. He was asleep. He had never stayed until morning, never allowed himself to be vulnerable in daylight. Vera lay perfectly still, terrified any movement might shatter this impossible moment. I love you, she realized, the truth hitting her with physical force. Gods help me, I love you. She didn't say it aloud. But as she lay in his cold embrace, watching morning light paint the room gold, she knew she'd crossed a line that couldn't be uncrossed. The change happened gradually. 2 months into their marriage, Kavan began arriving before dinner. He'd share meals he barely touched while asking about her day with genuine interest. Then he started appearing in afternoons, finding excuses to pass through whatever part of the palace she occupied. I wanted to see you, he'd say simply. But alongside this growing closeness, Vera noticed something troubling. He was getting colder, not emotionally. His walls were crumbling faster than either had anticipated. But physically, his skin had taken on a bluish tint. His hands felt like ice dipped in snow, and sometimes she'd wake to find him shivering violently despite the fire she kept burning. You're not well, she said one evening. Kavan, you need a healer. I've seen healers, they can do nothing. Then tell me what's wrong. She took his frozen hands in hers. This isn't just something strange about you. You're deteriorating. He pulled away and moved toward the window. His silhouette looked thinner than she remembered. Some things cannot be shared. Not because I don't trust you, but because knowing would only cause you pain. And watching you waste away causes me nothing? He turned sharply. Waste away? Do you think I haven't noticed? You eat almost nothing. You sleep in fits and starts. The cold is getting worse. She crossed to him, grabbing his arms. Whatever is happening, it's killing you. Kavan stared at her. In the fading light, his eyes looked almost colorless. Why do you care? We agreed this would be an arrangement. Because I'm falling in love with you. Silence. Kavan's face went through expressions too fast to track. Shock, pain, fear. No, he said, stepping back. You can't. It's too late. I've tried not to, but the heart doesn't listen to warnings. You don't understand. His voice cracked. If you love me, if you truly love me, what happens? He didn't answer, but the raw terror in his eyes told her everything and nothing. Kavan, whatever it is, we can face it together. I can't tell you because there is no fix. The men of my line have been cursed for generations. Cursed? What kind of curse? Vera whispered. His hands were shaking, his whole body trembling. The kind that kills us if we ever fall in love. The world tilted beneath her feet. My ancestor made a bargain with a witch to gain power. Kavan continued. Unmatched strength. Everything needed to conquer Asterholm. But magic always demands a price. He pressed his palm against his chest. Yet the price was love. We can want. We can feel affection. But the moment we fall truly, deeply in love, his voice dropped to a whisper. Our hearts freeze, and we die. The cold radiating from his skin. The way he'd chosen her because he felt nothing. The terror when she'd confessed. You're dying, she said, because you fell in love with me. No, he shook his head. I've been careful. Don't lie to me. She grabbed his face. His skin was so cold it burned. Look at me and tell me you don't love me. He met her eyes, opened his mouth, and couldn't. I tried, he said, his voice breaking. I chose you because I thought you'd be invisible. Someone I could use without feeling anything. Tears slid down her cheeks. But you weren't invisible. You were brave and kind, and every moment I spent with you, I was falling. And now, he gasped, hand flying to his chest. Kavan? Vera grabbed his arms as he swayed. It's too late, he whispered, his eyes glazed over, his lips turning blue. I love you, Vera. I love you, and the curse knows. He collapsed. Vera screamed as she caught him. Frost was spreading across his chest, creeping outward from his heart. No, she sobbed, pressing her hands against the frozen patch. You can't tell me you love me and then die. His eyes fluttered open one last time. His trembling hand touched her face. Find the witch, he gasped. Morvana, in the thornwood. She cast the curse. She might know. His eyes rolled back. His hand fell. And Vera was left holding the frozen body of the man she loved. 3 days passed. 3 days of sitting beside his frozen body, holding his hand despite the cold burning through her skin. 3 days of watching frost spread across his chest, shoulders, and throat. The Alpha King was dying. Your Majesty, the head advisor Brennick stood at the door. The Border Lords demand answers. If the king dies without an heir, he won't die. Vera didn't look up. He mentioned a witch. Morvana, in the thornwood. Find her. Brennick paled. The thornwood is forbidden. No wolf has entered those woods and returned alive. Then I'll go myself. The king would never. The king is unconscious with ice spreading toward his heart. Her voice cracked. Prepare a horse. I leave at dawn. The thornwood lived up to its name. Massive trees with bark like blackened bone rose toward perpetually overcast sky. Thorns the length of daggers sprouted from every surface. Vera had been traveling for 2 days when her horse refused to continue. She proceeded on foot. Morvana, she called into darkness. I am Vera, Luna of Asterholm. I come to bargain. Silence. Then, from everywhere at once. Bargain? Delightful. I haven't had a visitor willing to bargain in 400 years. Vera spun, searching for the voice. Show yourself. Such desperation. You must be here about the Valkoran curse. Can you break it? Laughter, dry as dead leaves. Break it? I created that curse with exquisite precision. Why would I break my finest work? I'll give you whatever you want, my service, my blood, my life. The laughter stopped. A figure materialized from shadows, old beyond measure, with skin like crumpled parchment and eyes burning foxfire green. Morvana stepped closer, those burning eyes fixed on Vera's sleeves. Show me your arms. Vera pulled back her sleeves, exposing the silver patterns. Morvana's breath caught. Impossible. You carry the marks of Sylvanvane. My mother's pack was Sylvanvane. Not just any Sylvanvane. Morvana traced one pattern with a gnarled finger. I haven't seen these marks in 5 centuries. Not since I fell in love with a Sylvanvane healer and he broke my heart. Not since I cursed his best friend's bloodline in revenge. The words made no sense. What are you saying? I'm saying you're not cursed. Morvana's voice was barely a whisper. You're blessed. These marks are the gift of the Moonfire healers, the rarest healers ever to exist. They can mend what is broken, warm what is frozen, undo what even the darkest magic has wrought. Hope surged in Vera's chest. Then I can save him? In theory. But your power has been bound. Bound? Someone placed a seal on your abilities. A powerful one, woven so tightly you probably don't remember it being done. 15 years ago, just after her father died. The seal requires blood connection, Morvana continued. Only someone related to you could have locked your power. And it can only be broken using an object significant to the one who cast it. Vera's mind raced. Her father must have bound her powers before his death, knowing Serena would try to use them. How do I find this object? It would be something your father wore close to his body. A ring. A pendant. Vera's breath caught. Her father's pendant. A silver disc engraved with a moon and flames. Serena had claimed it was lost when he died. Another lie. I know who has it, Vera said. Then go. Morvana stepped back. But understand this. Moonfire healing requires complete surrender. You must burn away the curse with everything you have. If your love is true, you will succeed. And if it isn't, then you will both die. Vera rode through the night toward the Crane estate. Guards hesitated at the gate but stood aside when she commanded. The mysterious Luna was once the Crane family's shameful secret. None knew how to treat her now. She found Serena in the morning room, sipping tea as if the world weren't crumbling. The cursed child returns, Serena said. Come to gloat? The king is dying. Satisfaction flickered in Serena's eyes. Tragic, though not unexpected. You knew about the curse. That's why you wanted Melisande to marry him. You wanted to make sure no one ever broke it. Serena's mask slipped. I don't know what you're talking about. You've known everything from the beginning. About the curse. About my mother's bloodline. About what I really am. Melisande stood from the corner. Vera, what are you? Your mother killed my father. Vera's eyes blazed. She's been lying to us both. Melisande looked between them. Mother? That's not true, is it? Serena's expression hardened. Your stepsister has lost her mind. My father bound my powers to protect me from you, Vera said. He knew what I was. He knew you would kill him to keep that secret buried. Where is his pendant? Vera demanded. The silver disc with the moon and flames. You kept it because you knew it was the key to unlocking abilities that could destroy everything you've built. Silence. Mother, Melisande whispered. Tell me she's wrong. Serena said nothing. Oh gods, Melisande breathed. It's true. Your father was weak, Serena spat. The Sylvan bloodline could have ruled this kingdom, but he married that healer and spawned this abomination. My mother. Your mother was going to train you in the old ways, unlock powers that would expose everything. Serena smiled coldly. A little poison solved that problem. And when your father tried to protect you by binding your powers, I solved him too. The world tilted. You killed them both? I'm a survivor, and without the pendant, your powers remain locked. Without your powers, the king dies. And in that chaos, I will finally take what should have been mine. No. Melisandre's voice cut through the room. This ends now. Both women turned. Melisande was trembling, tears streaming down her face. She crossed to the fireplace, reached behind a loose stone, and withdrew a velvet pouch. Melisande? Serena's voice went sharp. What are you doing? What I should have done years ago. She pressed the pouch into Vera's hands. Your father gave this to me before he died. Made me promise to hide it where Mother would never look. I was only 5. I didn't understand why. She looked at Serena with disgust. Now I do. Vera opened the pouch. Inside lay a silver disc, warm despite being hidden in cold stone, a moon wreathed in flames. The moment her fingers touched it, something cracked open inside her chest. Light exploded from her skin. Silver fire poured from every mark, filling the room with blazing radiance. The seal shattered like glass. When the light faded, she stood transformed. The silver marks no longer hid beneath her skin. They blazed openly, rivers of moonfire flowing across her arms, her throat, her face. "Impossible," Serena whispered. "The seal is broken." Vera's voice resonated with power. "You will answer for your crimes, but not today." She turned and strode from the room. There would be time for justice later. Right now, the man she loved was dying. Vera rode like the wind, her silver-marked skin blazing through darkness. The power made everything sharper. She could feel the pulse of the earth, the life force of every creature around her. And far ahead, growing weaker, she could feel Kavan. And their bond had been forged by something deeper than ceremony. She could sense his heart slowing, the ice creeping toward its destination. "Hold on," she whispered. "I'm coming." The palace gates flew open. Guards shouted in alarm at the sight of her blazing with silver fire. But none dared intervene. She burst through the doors to his chamber and stopped. Kavan lay encased in ice, a frozen shell glittering in candlelight. His chest no longer rose. His lips were blue, his skin translucent. "No." Vera crossed to the bed. "I'm not too late." She climbed onto the bed beside his frozen form. "You told me you couldn't love me," she said. "You tried so hard to protect me, but I don't want protection. I want you." She pressed her hands against his ice-covered chest. "So I'm going to burn it away. Whatever dark magic took root in your bloodline, I'm going to incinerate it. Because you're mine. Because I love you. Because I refuse to live in a world where you don't exist." She closed her eyes and let go. Silver flames poured from her hands, engulfing his frozen form. The ice hissed and cracked, melting under pure, concentrated love made manifest. But the curse fought back. Ancient and malevolent, clinging to its victim with desperate fury. "More," Vera gasped. "I need more." Images flashed through her mind, every moment they'd shared, their eyes meeting at the ceremony, the impossible bargain, the blindfold, the winter rose, the conversations in darkness, the love that had grown despite every wall. All of it, every feeling, every beat of her heart that belonged to him. She poured it all into the flames. The curse screamed. A sound like cracking ice and dying winters. It fought with everything it had. But love was older than curses, stronger than bargains. And she loved him completely. With a final deafening crack, the curse shattered. Silver light filled the room, so bright she had to close her eyes. Something fundamental shifted in reality. An ancient wrong being righted. Then silence. Vera opened her eyes. The ice was gone. His skin had regained color. His chest rose and fell. And his eyes were open. "Vera?" His voice was hoarse. "What happened?" She burst into tears. "You died," she sobbed, collapsing against his chest. "Your heart stopped. The ice covered everything." "Shh." His arms wrapped around her, warm for the first time since she'd known him. "I'm here. You saved me." 6 months later, spring came to Osterholm. The palace gardens bloomed with flowers that had no business surviving the northern climate, a side effect of having a moonfire healer as queen. Kavan stood at the window, watching sunset over his transformed realm. He no longer radiated cold. The curse had been broken not just for him, but for his entire bloodline. Their child, growing in Vera's belly, would never suffer his ancestors' fate. "Deep thoughts?" Vera asked, joining him at the window. His arm came around her immediately. "Grateful ones. I spent my life preparing to die young. Now I have a wife I love, a child on the way, and a lifetime ahead. Regrets? Only that I wasted time trying not to love you." He cupped her face in hands that were finally warm. "I should have surrendered the moment I saw you behind that pillar. If you'd surrendered immediately, you would have died. The curse required your love to be genuine, tested. Then I regret nothing." A knock at the door interrupted them. Enter, Kavan called. Brennick stepped inside. Your Majesties, Lady Melisande has arrived. Vera smiled. Her relationship with her stepsister had transformed since that terrible day. Melisande had testified against Serena, providing evidence of crimes stretching back decades. Serena now languished in the deepest dungeon in Asterholm, but Melisande had chosen a different path. She'd asked to serve on the council, to help undo the damage her mother had caused. Send her in, Vera said, and prepare the dining room. My sister will be joining us for dinner. After Brennick left, Kavan pulled her close. You've forgiven her? She was a victim too. Everyone deserves a chance at redemption. She thought of Morvanna's words. A sylvan vein broke my heart 5 centuries ago, and now a sylvan vein heals what my broken heart destroyed. Perhaps that is the true magic. Not curses or blessings, just love finding its way back. Even the cold king who tried not to love you? Kavan asked softly. She looked up at him, her silver marks glowing in fading light. Especially him. He kissed her, and Vera felt the mate bond singing between them. The bond they'd finally completed properly, with marks and declarations made in full view of the kingdom. No more hiding, no more secrets. Just love, warm and bright and eternal. That night, as Vera lay in Kavan's arms, she thought about everything they'd survived. What are you thinking about? He murmured. The beginning. Here's how it all started. With a ceremony and a choice that made no sense to anyone. It made sense to me. She traced the place over his heart where frost had once spread. Something in me recognized something in you. 2 broken people, hiding their scars, terrified of being seen. And now? Now we're still scarred, but we're not hiding anymore, and we're not alone. He tightened his arms around her. Never alone, not ever again. Outside, the moon rose over a kingdom transformed. A kingdom where healers walked openly with their marks on display, where the Alpha King ruled beside a Luna once considered cursed. She stepped aside for the new Luna. But the Alpha King stopped the ceremony and called her back. And in calling her back, he found something neither had expected. A love worth dying for. A love worth living for. A love that burned so bright it melted centuries of ice and illuminated a path for generations to come.